Welcome back. You've just tuned in to Women's AM. This morning I am joined by Sister Yasmin, Sister Aisha and Sister Claire. Assalamu alaikum, sisters. Welcome back. Sister Claire, mashallah, we've had you on the last series and you're in you do Islamic workshops. What have you been doing since then? What's new?
Oh, what's new? Well, I'm still going into the schools and the children are there quite excited as ever. Lots of the things I use in schools are songs. And so hopefully the next thing that's going to be coming out in Ramadan is some of those songs up on YouTube channels so that people can access them, because they seem to enjoy them in school and they always ask.
Oh, mashallah, it's really good. You know, we're always looking for lovely Islamic songs for kids, because some of them are just, they're so dated. You need something a little bit more up to date. Alhamdulillah. What about you, Sister Aisha? I know you've got a background in optometry and you're a mum of 3. How are you balancing it all?
So it can be quite tricky sometimes. I work part-time, so that sort of gives me a bit of time at home as well, but just sort of managing the children. I've got children of all ages, so I've got the young ones and the old ones. It's just being really organised, and it can be quite tricky at some times.
I think a lot of mum always tend to say organisation, so I think it's one of those things you kind of have to drill it in. Organisation is the key. Well, let's get cracking and go straight to her views, where today we'll be discussing Ramadan and children. Getting into the spirit of Ramadan is not always an easy task, especially when it comes to young children who may be of a young age, living in a society where Ramadan may not receive the same amount of commercial attention in comparison to other holidays. It can be hard for young children to see the importance of Ramadan, the lessons that are to be learned, and the other ways to get involved, leaving them feeling confused and disillusioned. As always, this is a live discussion with the sisters on the panel, and we'd love to know what you think, so please do call the studio to put your comments or questions to the panel. The number is on your screens now, or you can tweet us at Islam Channel #WAM15. So, Sister Yasmin, what significance does Ramadan have on the family and especially children?
I think we have to remember that as Muslims, our ultimate goal is Jannah, and our purpose in this life is to worship Allah. And I think Ramadan is a perfect time for us to be in tune, because everyone is on a spiritual high, the community's at its peak, everyone's, you know, spreading loving words and actions to each other. So it's important that we you know, involve our children in this time, or, you know, nieces and nephews, or whoever you're responsible for, to experience this, and ultimately we can become closer as a family and a community to Allah in this time. So I think it's really important to involve children.
Absolutely. I mean, Sister Claire, I mean, mashallah, you've got the experience of going into, you know, doing workshop with children on Islamic subjects. What have you found, you know, that has been especially significant for children when it comes to Ramadan?
Well, the important, I mean, I wasn't a child as a Muslim, so I didn't experience Ramadan as a child, although I did experience other celebrations, and I think that the feel of Ramadan is very much the same as them, you know, anticipation, excitement. The great thing is that it doesn't just last for one day, it's on for 30 days, so I think it's great. Children do seem to get excited about it in the schools that I go to.
Alhamdulillah, that's really nice. I don't remember learning about Ramadan when I was in school either, so it's a really, really good thing, mashallah. What about you, Sister Aisha? What are some of the difficulties that you find, you know, with parents helping their children engage in Ramadan?
I think because Ramadan is falling in summer this year, the long days, it's difficult for a lot of the younger children to participate in the fast then, with the iftar being quite late and Taraweeh prayer being quite late. I found that if you encourage your child to have maybe mini fasts and celebrate their achievements in that sense, so that would really, I think, make it easier for parents, and making use of the opportunity of the weekends and taking them to Taraweeh prayer there, and that really gives them that whole essence of being in Ramadan, mashallah.
Absolutely. I think it's a good way as well to kind of reinforce that. You know how everyone's so excited about the Friday night because it's the beginning of the weekend, to get something, you know, lovely going in Ramadan, mashallah, for the kids, to get them excited. Yes, it's the weekend, but also, oh my goodness, we get to do this for Ramadan. I mean, Sister Claire, what has been your experience? What sort of things have you seen have been difficult for kids when it comes to Ramadan?
I think that when parents are worried about Ramadan, I mean, that might be the issue. You know, they want to get their children involved. That's good, but there's no need to worry. Really, I think that would be the message. So if you're struggling, then probably the issue is with you and not with your child. That might sound a bit harsh, but I think if the problem is with you, then the solution's with you as well. If you just relax and think about what your expectations are for your child, are they realistic? If they're realistic, that you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things, isn't it?
I think a lot of children find it difficult to be involved in Ramadan is because we make it so much about food, and it needn't be about food, because, you know, we're fasting, or siyam, or saum, is abstinence, and we're fasting from things that are halal. So, you know, for example, relationships with your spouse, eating, which is halal normally, and throughout this month we're obviously fasting from food, but we're obviously also fasting from many other things. So it's important to involve children in, you know, abstaining from maybe things like computer games, maybe limiting it a little, knowing that, you know, certain things may be permissible or may not be impermissible, for example watching TV or playing certain games. But to limit it down, they can get this feel of, you know, being disciplined throughout Ramadan. I think that's really important, to discipline ourselves. It's not just about disciplining from bad words and food, or, you know, things that may be harmful.
But it's also discipline from the things that we love.
Yeah, just to become closer to Allah, sacrificing a little for the sake of Allah. I think it's a good way to involve children.
That's a really good point. I think one of the things is that we learn, especially during the fast, the fact that we're abstaining from food, it tells us to regain some of that self-control, because sometimes we do like to gorge a little bit and indulge ourselves. And I think being able to abstain from food helps us to be able to abstain from other things as well. I mean, what other difficulties have you found that children find during Ramadan, Sister Claire?
I do think it's about the parents' expectations sometimes. So a child itself would have no hesitation in getting really involved in Ramadan if the child was able to engage at their level. So, for example, we know it's the month of Quran, so it's a fantastic time to maybe read more, memorize more, or even understand the Quran more. But I think it's really important to go up to the child's level. Okay, what do you want to get out of Ramadan regarding your Quran? Not to say, you know, I need you to read 2 pages a day. That's not going to be, I think that's what makes it hard for children to get involved, the expectations.
SubhanAllah, it's a good point. Sister Aisha, mashallah, you're a mum of 3 and your kids are all different ages. What sort of difficulties have you seen with your children when it comes to Ramadan?
So something similar to what Claire said. I mean, I would see each child as an individual and say, you know, what are their expectations? My daughter might be able to do a bit more than my younger son would, and perhaps get involved a lot more, sit down together and recite the Quran together with them, or have a challenge to maybe learn a short surah together and really get involved with them. I think that really helps, really helps the children.
So alhamdulillah, one of the things, yes, you said expectations. I think as parents we want our kids to excel in so many things. We want them to be able to do so many things, and we don't stop to think about, actually, is this really the way for them to achieve anything, to have a love for whatever it is that they're trying to achieve as well. And I think that's one of the things, isn't it? We have to try and instill that love for Ramadan, instill that love for the deen. And if we're being really hard with them and we're not actually giving leeway into what they can do, then they do tend to resent, they will tend to resent it, which is a shame, subhanAllah.
I think it's really important to become very spiritual in this month as well. I mean, throughout the year we're doing things and it's all, you know, routine. We're doing it because we know why we're fasting, praying salah, or doing other things that are fard acts. But in Ramadan, we have this like spiritual high in the community. I think it's really nice and really important to involve kids in this spiritual feeling, because I think we feel like children can't be spiritual, but they can. For example, my nephew, my sister was saying, when she sits and breaks her fast with him, he picks a card up which has Arabic writing, and he says, "Thank you, Allah, for yummy food." So they do, and he's only 2. So they do understand and they do become grateful to Allah. So we should really, you know, use this to and instill that spirituality in children, because I think throughout the rest of the year, children are busy playing, learning, and us as well. We don't get to be very spiritual and very open about it. I think it's really nice to do
exactly,
that.
subhanAllah, it's a really good point. I think it's really the greatest time to actually teach them things that maybe you don't normally think about or you don't normally have time for. So say, for example, teaching them to make dhikr, to learn du'as as well. It's a really great time. I always find that with my son, when we go to Jum'ah prayers, I always give him his tasbih, and I always tell him like to get his 99 names of Allah book, and I tell him, pick which name that you want to do today, and then we go to the masjid. So during the khutbah, because he can't focus during the khutbah, so I give him his tasbih. I said, okay, now you start on your dhikr while the khutbah is on, or get him a little book on you know, Islamic stories, and I say, okay, you read that while the khutbah is on, and then we get up and pray together. And so I think it's one of those things you have to try and find ways to get them involved. So it's, I think, finding that balance and finding what works, alhamdulillah. So far the discussion has been really interesting, but we'll be going for a short break now. But just before we go, here's a reminder of this week's competition.